pretty loud. So we are doing a little bit of a follow-up from last month's discussion on kind of skilled nursing. At our last meeting, we had Monica, who is the administrator for skilled nursing, Juliet, who is admissions in skilled nursing, and Lily, who does discharge planning. So kind of the boss and the people who get you here, and then the people who kind of kick you out, if you will. After that meeting, which I'm not surprised, it spurred some additional questions about skilled nursing, how to get there, what happens when you're there, and then coming home, to home being the car lot. So we got a couple of scenarios from our fabulous health services committee for me to go over, but I'm also here to answer kind of any questions that anyone may have regarding skilled nursing. Vivian, as you all know, used to be our admissions and social services in skilled nursing when we were under Watermark, and we ran it. So she'll be able to answer in more detail those kinds of questions once she gets back with batteries. So the first hypothetical case that we received, kind of case study if you will, would be resident A is in the hospital, and under the scenario I'm going to assume that they were officially admitted into the hospital. There is a big distinction in being at the hospital in the ER, which feels like eons, and actually being admitted into the hospital. The reason there's a distinction is it's an insurance issue. If you're admitted into a hospital for 3 consecutive days, so 3 days, you qualify for skilled nursing should your physician in the hospital write orders for a discharge from the hospital to skilled nursing. If you have not been in the hospital admitted, so maybe you were in ER observation, or now Eisenhower has a lovely observation floor, that does not count as being admitted, and generally your insurance will not cover a skilled nursing stay. You would probably get discharged home, wherever home is for you. In this scenario, home is the Carlotta for everybody, with home health services and maybe follow-up.
When you're saying insurance, you're talking about Medicare, right?
Right. Or whatever, Blue Cross, whatever your insurance is.
Part A of Medicare, you have to be in the hospital for more than 3 days or something.
3 days. It's 3 days. Is that
3 days.
No. It's 3 days. So it's the general rule of thumb is to go to a skilled nursing when insurance is going to cover it. You have to be admitted for a minimum of 3 days. So that's why I say in this scenario, we're going to assume that the person was admitted. You find out why they're not. Maybe they're not. No, it's not. Hello? Maybe they need to turn the speakers up. So the person was admitted for 3 days. They need a skilled nursing, and they want to come to Carlotta's, the skilled nursing on Carlotta campus. The way it happens is there's 2 scenarios here. If you know you're going in for a planned surgery or what have you, and you know you're going to need skilled nursing, rehab, PT, maybe IV antibiotics, whatever the case may be, and you know that going into your stay in the hospital, my best suggestion would be to reach out to the admissions coordinator. In this case, her name is Juliet. She works for Aspen Healthcare in skilled nursing, and let her know, I am going in for surgery on X day. My doctor thinks I will be in the hospital for this many days, and she wants me to go to skilled nursing after. I would like to set that up in advance with you. And then she will work through the process and know who you are, because while you're in the hospital, you'll get a visit from somebody called a case manager. They are the person that works with you on your discharge plans. Oh, okay, you're going home, your doctor wants you to go to a skilled nursing. Now, if you don't tell them, I already know where I want to go, I want to go to the Carlotta, or whatever, skilled nursing of choice, they will present you with a list. They have to give you 3 options. Generally speaking, they'll give you options that they will give you options that your insurance will work with. And they say, pick one of these places. Okay, now, and that's where everybody outside of the Carlotta if you were not living here and you had to go pick a skilled nursing, sometimes people send family members out to go look at the different skilled nursings in the area or what have you, or they go off of Google reviews or what their friends have said. But in this scenario, you're all wanting to come here, you're able to come here. The case manager would then reach out to Carlotta Skilled Nursing, in this case run by Aspen, and say, Molly she needs to come to skilled nursing, she's had a hip replacement, here's her medical information, do you accept her as a resident or as a patient? And then they take a look at it, they meaning the administrator, the director of nursing, they look at you, they look at what their census, when I say they look at you on paper. They don't come and visit you in the hospital. They look at what the hospital tells them about you. Diagnosis, medication, what's your discharge plan? Do you have a discharge plan? And then they evaluate whether they can take you on as a patient, given all the other patients. So that's how you get, so we've jumped all over those hoops. You get to skilled nursing. In skilled nursing, the drivers are therapy and 24-hour nursing need. If you need continual IV therapy, antibiotics, what have you, it's a more medical need. That's one thing. So you would be in skilled nursing for the course of an antibiotic. Maybe you have pneumonia and they prescribe you an IV antibiotic. That. Then there's also the therapy component. So in the first 24 to 48 hours of being in a skilled nursing, therapy is going to come evaluate you and determine a treatment plan. The idea is to get you back to what I jokingly call fighting shape. Get you back to where you were before you had whatever incident got you there. A fall, an infection, whatever. A stroke, whatever the case may be, the idea is to get you back to where you were. That's the goal. Sometimes that goal isn't met, and it's to get you back to your new, we all hear this, your new normal. So you'll work with therapy. Typically it's 6 days a week, 6 to 7 days a week for therapy in a skilled nursing setting, and you progress. If you've ever heard stories from friends or family or what have you, where I'm getting kicked out of skilled nursing, generally you get what's called a NOM-NOC, which is a notice of Medicare non-payment, meaning the insurance company is done. You reached where you're going to reach because they've reached a plateau with therapy, meaning that they've progressed, the patient, has progressed as far as they can progress, and we've had a couple of days of plateauing, meaning this is your new normal, or you got back to where you were, or they have declined or not participated with therapy for so many days. The best thing I can tell you is if you're ever in a skilled nursing setting and you have orders for physical therapy, you have to participate to the best of your ability. Even if it means that today's not a good day, but tomorrow's better, denying physical therapy and saying go away, essentially go away, is it 3? If you do it 3 consecutive days or 3 consecutive therapy sessions, they go, okay, and insurance is like, this is their new normal, they don't want to participate, we're out. And then you will work on the discharge process. Any questions on that before I move over to discharge? Because that was a lot, I know. Okay. So when you're in skilled nursing, you're working with therapy, you're getting stronger, everything's fantastic. You get to you get issued a NOM-NOC, or the Notice of Medicare Non-Payment. What that does is legally, they're required to give you that form 72 hours before you leave. So I know we've been in some scenarios where I've even gotten involved with people maybe in this room or adjacent to this room where it feels like we don't know you're being discharged and now we need to come up with a care plan very, very quickly. Well, That can happen because you get 72 hours. They legally only have to give you 72 hours before they're like, you don't have to go, but you can't stay here for free or under insurance anymore. You could go on to private pay, very, very costly. Typical private pay for skilled nursing, if insurance isn't covering it, is gonna be between $400 to $1,000 a day, depending on medications. You start paying for everything a la carte. It gets real expensive real fast. So you get your nom-nom. With us and our residents, Helen does a weekly check-in. Helen or our wellness nurse, Rosalie, will do a weekly check-in with the nurse or with social services on any residents that we have over in skilled nursing. Where are they at with their progress? Are we anticipating another week? Are you anticipating a discharge? What is the anticipated discharge date? So that we can come to you with them and go, okay, we need to get a new 602 filled out. I know we all know about those. I beat that into everybody. A new 602 filled out, and then if you're going to require services, not everybody that comes out of skilled nursing needs services. Some people come out and they're ready to go. If you're going to receive services, are you going to want to reserve services from health services, so the Carlotta team, or do we need to manage home health? So it depends on insurance, depends on you, depends on what you need. At that time, we'll also know, are you going to get orders for outpatient physical therapy, meaning you're going to use South Pacific therapy here in the community, but we have to have a doctor's order and then get that set up. So Helen or Rosalie would come in armed with a fresh 602 and information from the medical team, the nurses in skilled nursing, and do an assessment for you. I understand that everybody would like to have that assessment 7 days before they leave skilled nursing. Our hesitation in doing an assessment too early before you have plateaued with therapy is that it is quite possible, and about 99.9% of the time, when we reassess you closer to discharge, you have progressed and don't need as much assistance. So I understand the frustration in not knowing every little piece of information a week in advance of discharge, but oftentimes, you progress in those last couple of days before they discharge you. Because skilled nursing doesn't ever want to discharge anybody if there is just a little bit more progress that can be made. So that's why sometimes I hear, well, I have another 2 weeks in skilled nursing, but I want you to do an assessment so I know what it's going to cost me when I get out. And I always say, we can do an assessment. We can do assessments all the live long day, but I can guarantee you that that assessment that we do 2 weeks before you discharge is going to differ than the assessment we do 72 hours before discharge. Because you have a lot of therapy in that time and a lot of strength that can be gained in that time. I can appreciate the frustration with it, but it really is the best way to do it. Now what we can do is do the assessment early on under the guise of we're gonna do an assessment closer to discharge and things may change. At the time of us doing the assessment, you would get what the care costs would be. So, do you need help with bathing or dressing? For all of you who are in my how does the assessment work class, I think that was in early August. Assessments are point-based. I'm going to use a very easy example. So say you start needing help with medications. From 1 medication to 5 medications is a certain number of points. From 6 medications to 11 medications is a certain number of points. From 12 medications to infinity and beyond is a certain number of points. A point is the equivalent of $18. So every assisted living care provider does it a little bit differently. In our world, it's $18 a point. That applies. So some things have multiple options, like the medication option. We have a question on the assessment. Say you come back from having hip surgery, you've progressed, but you're not feeling ready to run down the hallway. You can opt to what a lot of people opt into called escorting service, meaning that a team member will walk with you to the dining room, take you to an activity, help you get where you need to go so you feel safely. Escorting is kind of like pass-fail. You need it, you don't. There's no like, well, I need it sometimes when I feel like it, or I don't need it. I understand that it's frustrating, but Helen's option, Helen or Rosalie, or if I'm doing your assessment, my option is yes or no. There is a caveat on that though. So say we do an assessment. Point totals are based on, so say we do an assessment and we come out to 300 points. For whatever variety of services you need, it would be 300 times 18 and you would get that number. That is based on a whole month. So say you start on service on tomorrow the 5th, the 5th of October, but you're only on those services till the 10th. Well, the number we're going to give you is based off of the whole month. But Helen goes in and we start service on one day and we've determined that we're stopping it on this day. You're only paying a prorated amount for the days you're on service. So if you go on service mid-month or you go on it at the beginning of the month, but you're only on it to the middle of the month, you're only going to pay for it for the time that you're on it. Questions? I'm going to start here and get over there.
Remind us about what foods, whether we can have delivery, not delivery of meals and payments.
So under Watermark's assessment form, they're different. Every company it's like ours. I'm sorry?
You said Watermark?
I know, because I'm correlating something. So under Watermark's assessment, if you remember when we switched it, there was a meal delivery charge, where it was a flat, if you needed meals delivered, it was a flat rate. Oakmont's there's no question that goes, do you need help with meal delivery on here? So meal delivery, we have under our Carlotta rules, if you will, if you're sick, whether that be flu, COVID, say the quiet part out loud, COVID, I have the ability to grant meal delivery. So with COVID, as long as you're under imposed quarantine by us, your meal delivery is complimentary. You're paying for the meals. Hold on one second. Hold on. If I am telling you to stay in your apartment and do not walk out because I don't want you communicating your disease, COVID or not, to anybody in this building, I am not going to then charge you to deliver meals. Where this changes, so that would be it's standard for, we call it like 3 sick meals. It's 3 days. COVID's quarantine is longer, and if you continue to be symptomatic with COVID, your quarantine is longer. So obviously, if I'm telling you to not leave your apartment, I am not going to then punish you and make you pay to have meals delivered. If you call me and you're like, I have a headache and I don't feel like coming out, you're going to pay to have meals delivered. But if you come down with a cold, the flu, we have a blanket 3 days of complimentary meals delivered. You have to let health services know that you are sick so that they can communicate that to dining. It doesn't do anybody any good to come with your bill to Francis and say, I shouldn't have paid for my meal being delivered because I didn't feel good on the 10th, 11th, and 12th. Well, did you tell anybody? No. Okay, well, we'll fix it, but in the future, we can't read your mind. So if you're not telling, I wish. So that's, the communication from the resident is key in that. And it can be as simple as calling the front desk, email, and saying, hey, I'm not feeling well. A wellness nurse is here 7 days a week. Helen's days off are Sundays and Mondays. Rosalie's days off are Fridays and Saturdays. If vacations happen in there, one or both of them adjust their schedules so that a wellness nurse is here 7 days a week. Any questions on meal delivery?
You're talking about 1 meal a day?
No. If you are told to not leave your room because you are sick, and I do not want all 208 residents sick and my 100 staff members, we will not charge you for meal delivery. They're doing that. It's a test. It's on cell phone. I got an email or text message from COD yesterday that they're doing a national emergency.
Everybody's phone will do it too, by
Yes.
the way.
Well, that's what's doing it right now.
I.
So are there any questions on scenario A?
Back just a minute to meals.
That
So
scared
if you
you, huh?
just kind of have a cold and generally feel miserable,
Yeah.
we can have meals delivered, but we pay for it.
If you have,
And how does that happen? Who do we call?
well, if you have a cold, you get a gratis 3 days of meals being delivered. You have to tell health services. Not that I think anyone's gonna tell me they had a cold 3 weeks ago to get free meal delivery, but
Yeah.
there's a process to things. So you would contact health services, whether it be a caregiver, let them know so that they can let Helen know that we have to work through proper channels here. Then you would get 3 days of meals of your choice, delivered. Typically, dinner is the meal that we deliver in certain scenarios, and we've had people that I go, okay, maybe they're a caregiver or they know that they're not, there is a situation where we have to set up meal delivery for all 3 meals. So we can make I know a lot of when I say this and I sound like a broken record, a lot of when I'm presenting information to a group, I'm presenting a very general, high level. Situations can be different, and that's why involving Helen, involving me, involving Vivian, so we can come up with the correct course of action for your particular situation is vital.
Okay, say I have the flu so I can't go out.
Right.
How do I get a menu?
What you can do, and I've delivered menus, you can call the front desk and say, hey, I'm feeling under the weather. I'm requesting that somebody bring me my menus so that I can fill them out, and either the care staff will bring them to you, you can fill them out, and then they will return them. When we get the elusive Oz behind the curtain phone system that has voicemail, Belva can attest to me, we can go back in time where we used to have a voicemail box for room service meals, and you could call and say, this is Molly, it's Tuesday, I would like you read them what you want off the menu, and the room service, before they start packaging room service, they pull all the voicemails off and then fill the menu out for you. So that's that.
When are we going to get voicemail?
I don't know. That's the honest truth. We're making progress. No progress is fast enough for me, so we're working on that one. But you can call the front desk and they can ask a member of the wellness team to pick up menus for you, and they can bring the menus for a couple of days and then circle them. You can always, because I've taken them hold on one second, let me finish this thought and I'll be right with you. I have taken people's menu orders at the front desk. They've called and said, I need to place my order and I know what I want. We just write it down. I've heard the front desk take the menu and then they get it to dining service, or to culinary, excuse me. Yes, ma'am.
But Vanessa is now with Life Loop, has been emailing.
She does. She posts the menu. So if you're utilizing LifeLoop, which
Yeah,
hint
It's very
here,
hard to read the small print.
well, get a bigger phone, do it on a computer, do it on an iPad. There's if you have a smart TV, I think there's an app on there. So we are really leaning heavy, side note, on utilizing the technology that we have available to us. I understand that not everybody is overly comfortable with all of it, but Vanessa can teach you, make you comfortable with it, but at the suggestion of Mr. and Mrs. McCarty, we started adding the menu on there. A, then it's at the palm of your hands. B, you don't have to walk up and get a piece of paper. And then C, we're trying to do our part for the environment and save as much paper as we can. So LifeLoop is a great resource. That's just my PSA on that. Any other questions about that scenario A situation?
It should just come, but you may have to get Vanessa.
So this question is unique. So scenario 2. Say you were in the hospital or you had a same-day procedure and you were on 1 day. So the whole qualifying stay in skilled nursing does not apply to you. Say you went and had an eye procedure done, and the doctor says you're ready to go home, you're fine, but you don't feel comfortable being at home without assistance. Some of you in this room, and I'm going to stress on some of you in this room, have in your resident contract that you signed when you moved in. If you have questions about your contract, you can get a copy of it from Francis. Have what's called life care days. Life care days. What those are 10 room and board covered days in the skilled nursing that's on our property. You get 10 a year, they don't roll over. You can't collect them and have 100 of them after 10 years. I don't know, I would encourage everybody to not want to stay in skilled nursing for 100 days, but nevertheless. So, but if you use a few, they get re-upped on January 1. If you have that service to you per your contract, the process of going to skilled nursing is the same as if you're being admitted under an insurance stay. Their regulatory regulations, don't care if insurance is paying or if you have this benefit. They need the same paperwork from a physician. So you would need an order for skilled nursing from your physician. Yes.
Is that Dr. Thomas, for instance, if he's my...
If that's your physician,
Yes.
if you were there, or if you're having a same day eye procedure, your Dr. Thomas could, or your ophthalmologist, whatever the case may be, from a physician. They don't care who the physician is, a physician. And then they need medication information. It's not, and I don't mean this flippantly the way I'm going to say this. It is not like just checking in at the Marriott. You can't just show up with your bags and say, I'm here, I want to use my life care days. Because they need to A, have a bed for you, B, know what care you're going to need, and then the payer source, they work that out. But you cannot just arrive and say, I'm here, I'm checking in, I have this privilege. It doesn't work that way. If you need help with obtaining doctor's orders, or you're like, hey, I'm gonna have surgery next Friday, my family can't come in until the following Tuesday, I wanna utilize life care days Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you can pre-arrange stuff like that. It's actually very much encouraged to pre-arrange with it, because then they know they're holding a bed for you, they have all the paperwork in order. But it's critical to remember that they need the same paperwork whether you're coming through the front door on your own or whether you're coming via an ambulance from Eisenhower because you were just discharged. Their paperwork requirement is the same. So obviously in a perfect world, we would be able to anticipate every need. Like, oh, I know I'm going to want to use my life care days 3 weeks from now for 3 days. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. And that's where activating health services and letting them know, hey, I'm going for this procedure. I think I'm going to want to use some of my life care days after the fact. And saying, okay, and we can start gathering the paperwork and working with the admissions coordinator to arrange that. I know sometimes it seems like we don't want to use your life care days. Your life care days are for you to use or not. I don't have an opinion on it. I want none of my residents to have to need to use them, just like I want the 911 to never come here because I don't want everyone to have to need it. But sometimes life happens and we do need these resources. So utilize the health services team if you can anticipate it. But we've had a lot of scenarios where Helen's come to me and gone, so-and-so, I'm going to pick on Vivian. Vivian's not doing well. Maybe she has a bout of the flu and she's struggling a little bit more to kind of get back. I think she could benefit from life care days. I go, okay, I will work with the skilled nursing team and going, hey, we want to do it that bit, and we'll start helping gather the physician stuff and all the paperwork that they need for it. But again, I know I'm probably going to start to sound like a broken record. You have to tell health services or me or Vivian what is going on. Because I am not with you in your apartment to know some of these things. I will be glad to come hang out. Yes, ma'am.
So if you're, how can I explain this?
It's okay.
If you are in the hospital and you have to come, you want to come, you've got your 10 days, who do I notify here?
So I'm going to ask a follow-up. Are you in the hospital admitted, or are you just in the hospital in the ER because you took a bad
No,
time?
I'm admitted.
You're admitted. So what you would do is let your case manager know. So if you're admitted into the hospital,
The case manager in the hospital, you let them know.
let them know I want to go do my skilled nursing rehab at Carlotta.
Okay.
They'll reach out to Carlotta and say, Molly is here, she had a hip fracture, she had a this, she had a that, whatever the scenario is, here's all her information, she picked you guys as a skilled nursing. And then they would work on, then the case manager is organizing getting Juliet, our admissions coordinator in skilled nursing, she works for Aspen, get all the paperwork, work it out. They would set up the case manager would go, okay, we'll have transportation here at 4 o'clock. Transportation, not our transportation, they're a different company, remember, would be there to pick you up and bring you, and they would do the admission process. We know what's going on with everybody, generally. So then we would know, and then Helen would have you on the radar. Okay, Beverly's been admitted into skilled nursing, and then that's when she would start getting in constant contact. Believe it or not, within 72 hours of being in skilled nursing, they're already talking about when you're going to discharge. Even if that discharge is a month, 2 weeks, 2 days, whatever it is, they already start talking about it. Typically, and this again is in general, skilled nursings have what they call an IDT meeting, so it's an interdisciplinary team meeting, meaning therapy, dining, nursing, the CNAs, all have a meeting where they all get together and talk about everybody. And in that conversation, they're anticipating discharge dates for everybody. Because it's a little bit of movie, we're thinking Molly's gonna be here, we're gonna continue therapy for another 7 days. Okay, we'll talk about you again on Wednesday. Or we think Vivian's okay, we're gonna set a discharge date of Friday, meaning that means the social services needs to issue a knock on Wednesday or Friday for a Monday discharge. So they're always constantly evaluating your progress. That's why I say, believe it or not, you can start talking about planning a discharge pretty quickly upon being admitted. It doesn't mean you're going to be discharged quickly. It just means we can start talking about it. And we're more than happy to be a part of any discharge planning meetings that you're having with the skilled nursing team, whether it be in this skilled nursing or in any skilled nursing in the Valley, but you have to invite us to them. We cannot invite ourselves because I like to akin it to, with skilled nursing, especially everyone here, you have to imagine I pick the whole thing up and move it to a different part of it. It's not while we're all in the same building and it feels like we can just waltz on into their meetings. I can't just waltz on into their meetings. You have to tell them, I want Helen there. I want Molly, and I'm personally more than happy to come to them. Vivian's more than happy to come to them, so that we can translate maybe some of what they're telling you into kind of basics or what it means when you come home. But you have to tell them you want us there. They don't automatically tell us when they're happening, nor are they required to tell us, hey, we think Molly's going to be discharged in 14 days. Hey, we think Molly's going to be discharged tomorrow. They're not required to tell us anything. I know it can be frustrating, but that's why we do our weekly check-ins and kind of get heads up on them. And they've been lovely to work with, getting us the paperwork that we need for you and trying to give us as much notice as possible. But I want to stress, they're not required to involve me in what's going on with you when you're a skilled nursing resident. To the point of, technically speaking, when you're in skilled nursing, without signing you out and having a doctor's order, you're technically not allowed to leave skilled nursing.
The meeting you're talking about, is this IDT meeting where the patient is not part of it?
The patient's not part of it. So the IDT meeting is the team talking about you, but the social services or discharge planner will set with you what's called a discharge planning meeting. They do it with everybody that's in a skilled nursing, and it's them coming and talking to you and going, hey, you're getting close to discharge. What's your plan? Oh, I'm going home with care. Am I home outside of here? Or I'm going back to the Carlotta. I need to get evaluated because I'm anticipating needing these kinds of services. What they want to do in that discharge planning meeting is set you up so that you don't come back. They don't want you making a 3-day jaunt through your house, back to the ER, back to skilled nursing because you weren't properly prepared or ready to be discharged.
So we tell the skilled nursing facility that we would like you as part of their planning meeting.
Yep. You can have whoever you want there. It's your meeting.
Separate
You're allowed to have whoever you want at your discharge planning meeting. You could say, I don't want Carlotta there, and we won't be there. You could say, I want to make sure Helen's there, I want to make sure Molly's there, so that they know what's going on with me. But it's your meeting, so they can't tell you who can and cannot be there. Yes, ma'am.
In the case of the system that we got
Okay.
before, her daughter was in charge of her. She should have been, when she brought her mother home, she should have come to you.
Well, that situation, without going into particulars with somebody, I don't want to go to jail for a HIPAA violation, so I'll go for a different reason, just not that one. It is important, and this goes back to communicating with the health services team. If you go to the ER, and we know you go to the ER, you're going to the urgent care, we're gonna follow up with you, but we can't, again, know when you're gonna get discharged from the ER, the urgent care, what's going on with you. So generally speaking, when you get discharged with any medical situation, and I know especially with Eisenhower, if you're doing the MyChart, you get like a whole little packet of information about what they did, what's going on, and what any kind of aftercare notes or whatever. Urgent care, ER, hospital discharge, they're not just gonna send you on your merry way with nothing. It is important, especially if you're coming back and you're gonna maybe need some assistance, but it's really just important in general for us to know what's going on. We'll follow up with you, but if you have the information, getting it to one of the care providers, a med tech, they're all in the blue with the blue scrub top, the navy blue scrub top, and the black pants, or putting it with Helen or Rosalie, letting them know. Just like you let us know when you I'm going away for the weekend, I'm back. Believe it or not, if anybody goes out via emergency medical transportation or with their family to an urgent care or an ER, it's our policy that the front desk sends an email out to all the directors so we know who's gone. I knew when I was in Mexico who was being sent out to the ER. And then I would follow up immediately with Helen and be like, tell me what's going on. Did they get admitted? Did they get discharged? Do we need to fill out an incident report? Is it something where, and another thing, is it a situation that we have to report it to the state? So if somebody falls and breaks something, I have to do a license report from the state that this is what happened. Because we're a licensed facility. Because if everybody starts falling down and breaking their right hip, the LPA is going to be in this building going, what are you guys doing? Why is everybody falling down and breaking their right hip? Are you pushing everybody from the left? What's going on? So that's why it's critical that we know what's going on. I don't want to be everybody's mom. I know everybody's very independent and active, but there are times that you need us. And let us be there. But we have to know what's going on. Yes, ma'am.
I've been to urgent care a few times, and I had an eye procedure. I have never let you guys know anything.
Well, you're on the naughty
Do you want
list.
all those papers?
It's helpful for us to know. Now, I am not saying for every hangnail, let us know. But if you're going in for a procedure, it's probably a good idea that we know. Especially if you're on service, it's important to know. But it's important to know forever. Just like in every weekly letter I've said for the last 3 weeks, if you got your flu shot when you were grocery shopping at Ralph's, I need a copy of it. I need to know who's had the, I need to know if 2 people have gotten the flu shot and I should expect or not to be surprised when there's a flu in the community, or whether we're 99% vaccinated. Again, it's not because I'm trying to be nosy or get in your business or tell you what to do, but it's important to know because you live in a community and there are regulatory things that we need to know.
I have a question about
Sure.
that. I obviously got some shots just recently, and I told my doctor, who's not here, but at Eisenhower, and I talked to the nurse, and they got the notification from the place that I've got it, so they got it. I
Yeah.
didn't have to take them anything.
Right.
And they didn't hand me something when I left where I got the shot.
You can, typically they don't because a lot of the systems are integrated. For example, I got my vaccines for COVID done here, but when I had different insurance and I switched insurance and they had transferred to my new insurance. But you can request a copy of them. Unfortunately, none of our systems are integrated with any of the Walgreens, Rite Aid.
Okay.
Now, if you're doing, which in a perfect world, that would be fantastic. I know it's kind of like Eisenhower's MyChart system is fantastic. If you're with Kaiser, all their stuff is very, very interconnected, but you can always, yeah, you can always request those kinds of things, ask them for a copy of it and give it to us. If you're getting your flu vaccine with us, obviously you're getting it here. We're gonna have all the paperwork, so you don't have to worry about that kind of thing.
So you want that paperwork whether I have it here or not?
Correct.
We'll have to go track it down.
If you can. Or if Eisenhower has it, you should be able, even if you can look on your MyChart, if you use the app or use it on the desktop, screenshot that you had the vaccine and what day, and you can, that is proof too, just showing that you have it within your Eisenhower MyChart. Or if you do like a CVS or a Walgreens.
I'll just ask.
Yeah, you can give it to the front desk, they'll put it in an envelope, put it in Rebecca or Helen's box, and then they'll file it in your information, so we have it. Any other questions for me? I know I just threw a whole bunch of scenarios and what ifs, etc., etc.
I have a question.
Sure.
You're dealing with skilled here. What if your physician decides he doesn't want to qualify as skilled? You have a day procedure and they're going to ship you home late in the afternoon, and he doesn't feel you're skilled. He wants to send you home, but you're not in the situation if you don't have anybody or you're coming back here and you live by yourself.
Right.
You don't have anybody.
That's,
you don't need skilled.
yeah, you don't need scare, but you need somebody to come check on you and make sure you get dinner.
Or somebody, say you had a cataract procedure and they're willing to ship you home, which most people would do.
Right.
What do you do for those kind of situations?
So that would be with letting us know in advance that I'm going tomorrow to have a cataract procedure. It's anticipated that I'm going to be back Thursday afternoon. I have a ride home, or I'm going to get here. We would know, and then you would work with Helen. She would have the care providers on staff come make sure, check on you when you get home. If you're anticipating, hey, for the next 3 days after my cataract, I'm going to need help with my eye drops, that would be part of that assessment. So it's letting us know in advance, especially with planned surgical things like that. And I see that all the time. Hey, I'm going to get maybe some mole removal and it's going to be a little bit more intense and I need help with dressing changes. You let Helen know about that. She does the assessment, you get what the cost is, and then they set up treatment going forward. A lot of times in situations like that, it's like the first 24 to 48 hours, we just do increased assurance checks to make sure you're okay. Do you need us to bring you to dinner? Do you need this? Do you need that? Maybe, depending on drops and if you need help with those kinds of
What do
things.
you do with people nowadays that ship them out after the same day for knee surgery, both? Do you put those people into your assisted center here?
No, we don't. I've seen it happen a couple ways. I've seen it happen where people utilize their life care days for something like that. I've seen
They're
it.
not skilled.
Well, the life care days you don't need, and if you have them in your contract, you don't have to have a skilled nursing need.
So you don't need skilled nursing to use your skilled nursing life care days?
Correct.
That's what you're doing?
Yep. If you have the benefit, it's kind of like a bonus.
Okay.
Because there's no insurance paying for it, so they're like, sure, stay there. Or you add on services. Generally speaking, when you're doing your same day, it's rare that I see people come back on the same day in our demographic with hips and knees. Usually they're going to stay in the hospital for a couple days and then they would come back. And if they do come back and they're doing okay, or they have a spouse that lives with them or somebody who lives with them, they may add some support services. And again, that's something that you would want to engage health services with before. But yeah, the same day stuff. We've had people come back same day, they get to their casita and we're like, oh, no. And we get them over with their life care days to skilled nursing. And then it actually, in certain situations, I've seen where it converts to a covered Medicare stay because it was deemed that they needed that.
So what do you do with the people who don't have these guaranteed life care days, who get shipped back, like you said?
We would add on services. You would have to add on support services. Most of the time in those situations, if you're doing like a same-day hip replacement, which is kind of wild to me, but let's just say you're saving a same-day hip replacement, the surgeon probably is arranged for home health and occupational and physical therapy. So where we would come in probably would be like meal deliveries, maybe helping with showers and things like that. So adding on, there's a cost to it, but adding on the supportive services, but key of being is really engaging health services and make them aware of what's going on with you.
Another question, if you have a health care policy insurance life care policy that kicks in after,
60 days.
a little bit more than 90.
Some, I've seen between 30 and 90.
Well, mine was about 90, and it pays X amount of dollars a day. Is that care given in your unit for all the, in other words, would the physician here justify you, i.e. you could perform daily living activities, i.e. eating, bathing,
Yeah,
whatever?
those kinds of things.
So would he justify the insurance form and therefore have it kick in?
So what would happen in that scenario? So if you have long-term care insurance, there's what's called an elimination period. I've seen it as little as 30. Typically, it's between 60 and 90 days before they will start paying. You activate the policy, and they will send us paperwork, or send you and get it to us paperwork that we need to fill out to verify, if you will, that you meet the requirement for them to start paying. Once your policy has been activated and you've met all their criteria, you would start getting reimbursed from the long-term care policy. I like to stress this. It's your policy, so you have to activate it. I can't activate it for you. And, I mean, I can help with the paperwork. Whatever paperwork they need. Rebecca, some people need it monthly, some policies need it quarterly, but whatever paperwork that you would need once you're on the policy, your insurance company would pay you, but you pay us. So it's basically like the policy reimbursing you for the care. Yes?
Do you send those people then to the assisted living unit?
No, the whole building is licensed as an assisted living. You can stay inside your unit, one bedroom, two bedroom apartment or casita, and get the same care. Now, if you would rather be in a smaller, more controlled assisted living environment, we do have what's called a respite program, but it is a $250 day per day rate to live over there. So you would be paid in both places. Yes.
How mentally incompetent do you have to be before you get them out?
Mentally incompetent. So we are not a licensed memory care facility. We're not secure. So if you start to exhibit behaviors that are dangerous to yourself or to the greater community, i.e., and this is a real life example, you set your microwave for 500 minutes to cook a Marie Callender's pot pie. That triggers us to start working with your family, to start getting tests that this is not a safe environment for you. If you leave the water on and are letting your apartment get flooded, and I'm not talking about you do this one time. Like, I've done stuff like that once, because I'm not paying attention. But ongoing, if we find you out in the hallways and you tell the staff, I don't know who I am, I don't know where I am, and I need to get back to my house in Sun City, that's going to trigger conversations where we're going to get you evaluated. Is it a UTI? Is it an acute thing that we can fix, or is this a thing? Believe it or not, just like skilled nursing does IDT team meetings, so do we. We talk about everybody that's on surface. It involves dining, it involves housekeeping, it involves maintenance, because they're inside your apartments, housekeeping and maintenance, and then dining, they see you in the dining room, and they can more easily identify something's changed with Molly. She used to be very tidy, but now we're hoarding trash in weird places. Something's wrong. So we talk about that. So it's a process. I don't just go, you made one mistake one day, or you saw me in the hallway and you used to tell me, hi Molly, every day, and now you don't. You look at me like you don't know me. That's not. What that would trigger is me to tell Helen, reach out to your physician, because we need to do some testing to see what's going on. But if you start trying to tell me we're in France in World War II and you need to scale the fence and get out of the building, that's when we would probably put 24-hour care on you and very quickly work with your family to get you to a more secure, safe environment. Mr. Burrows, did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. Any other questions?
If you take an infusion somewhere, every other week, which I do,
Okay.
I haven't told you, do I need to tell you?
It would be a
exactly
good idea to just let Helen know that you do this and when you typically do it, because what if one day you come home and you have a reaction from it that you've never had before, and we're like, call the paramedics, and they're like, well, what's going on? And we're like, no, she's normally just like, but you have,
Yeah.
So letting us know, it's one of those, I know it may sound a little bit cheesy, but information is power. The more we know about what's going on with you, it's not because we're going to try to come in and sell you services and put you on certain, no, that's not what we're trying to do. But it's for us to be able, in a situation where you can't verbally tell me something, we can help you with your care.
Should we be having interviews with Helen so she can develop a
We
process?
are working on that. So our first hurdle, and I think it was a little bit after you moved in, was getting everybody up to date on their 602. we're gonna be setting up annual assessments so that that's why that initial assessment, when I remember my pre-life in sales, I don't need to do an assessment, I'm perfectly fine. Well, we need to do an assessment to establish a baseline, meet her, know who she is, and then to get, so we'll be setting up, typically they're probably gonna happen on anniversary dates, they're probably gonna happen a little bit sooner than that, given the situation of just establishing it with everybody. But yes, that's part of my grand plan. Any other questions before I have a question for everybody? So the thought of these meetings, this health chat, is either with myself, with Helen, a combination of Molly and Helen, or Vivian if I'm not here, is to be able to provide information to the community outside of our doc talks with senior docs. As the Health Services Committee, formerly known as the Wellness Committee, formed, I think we're about a year-ish old, maybe a little bit more than that. It was kind of, the thought of it was because there's some misunderstandings or whatever with the services that the community can provide. So in one of our health services meetings, I kind of threw out there, would it be helpful to have a monthly meeting with myself or the health services director, Helen, to be able to answer health services related questions? We've had a couple of topics. We started with what's a caregiver, what's a med tech, what's an assessment. As we meet monthly, we come up with different topics. Like it was kind of identified that maybe we need to do a little bit more information on skilled nursing. We did one last month, a little bit of a follow-up this month. I'm more than happy to keep coming up with topics that I think everybody wants to know about. But there's people. You can, have the water here, but you can't force people to drink it sometimes. But are there any topics that you all would like to know more information about? I don't necessarily need the answer right now, but just kind of as we're planning these, I know with having this discussion and then the Dr. Thomas kind of doc talks, I don't want them to get confused. Dr. Thomas is a doctor, so his approach to, it's more health related topics in general. My talks and what we talk about here is more related to the services that are provided by Carlotta, what we can and cannot do, what we need, etc. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Just if you've heard, let me know if you heard somebody say, oh, I'd really like to know more about that, and then encourage that person to come. So just keep that in the back of your minds. If you think of anything, stop me. I'm generally around, or email me, or let Helen know if there's specific topics. I've had a lot of people have questions about hospice and palliative care. Would that be something you would want some of the home health agencies here to talk about what they do? And then Helen and I would be here to talk about how we interface with them. I know that sometimes hospice and palliative care can feel uncomfortable to talk about. I understand that. But I think it's also good to have the information so you have knowledge about the options that you do have. So we could arrange something like that if everybody thinks, but Karen, I know you had your hand up, I'll be right with you.
I just wanted to ask about, I didn't sign up for the doc to
be
have
your doctor?
his service.
Okay.
But can I have my own other doctor also? Can I have the two?
So yeah, that was a popular question a couple of months ago when we introduced senior docs and the services they offer.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
It's okay. If you want to make Dr. Thomas your primary care physician because you want to switch primary care physicians, he can be that. Or you can keep your current primary because you're happy with them,
yes,
and have him as a backup physician. The only caveat is you can't go to your doctor and see Dr. Thomas on the same day. That's an insurance issue. I'm assuming you don't want to do that.
no.
But you can't. So if it's, I've had a couple people who do that because maybe they have they think they maybe have a urinary tract infection and they can't get into their doctor, but we can call Dr. Thomas and get an order for UA, and then he can prescribe medication. So you always have the option to have him as your secondary primary, if you will. Yes, ma'am.
And say a UTI, if you have a UTI. If you have a UTI, you have to go to urgent care. So what you're saying now,
We have taken many a urine sample and they've good, just like you get blood drawn here, you can pee in a cup here. Very sexy, I know.
That's wonderful.
You can get a chest X-ray here. You can,
Yeah, I know.
a lot of things are mobile now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's great. So he can order that just like he would order.
So I don't have to go myself. Oh, that's great. Oh, sorry,
This-
mind it.
You know, when I think Medicare's to HMO, how does an HMO fit into all of this? Because I know there are
Fit into, in what respect?
to home care. 'Cause
So
theoretically-
HMOs are particular. I'm going to use the particular.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I have an HMO. I'm with Kaiser. That's my health insurance. They, generally speaking, dictate who and what you can use. So a lot of times, I'm gonna, if you have it in this room, I'm not picking on it, I'm just using it as an example. I'm gonna use Kaiser because that's me. If I was to need to go to a skilled nursing, Kaiser, what's gonna happen during my discharge planning is Kaiser's going to say, the discharge planner is going to say, you have option A and option B. Sometimes it's only A, because Kaiser, my HMO, has contracted with facility X, and that's the only place I, as a Kaiser patient, can go to if I want Kaiser to pay for it. If I'm willing to write the check, I can go wherever I want. So a lot of times what we see, Desert Oasis, EPMG, Kaiser, that's come up a couple times, is you have to utilize the home health services they want you to use, or the PT, or you have to go to Kaiser's physical therapy or Desert Oasis's physical therapy. If you're utilizing health services with us and you're adding on care services, that's 100% private pay, whether you have an HMO or a PPO, because those are medical insurances. The only type of insurance that would pay for health services kind of care in our universe is what Michael brought up called long-term care insurance. You know if you have it. It's not an Anthem Blue Cross. It's not a medical insurance. It's a long-term care insurance. But HMOs are fine if you color within their lines. You generally have less choice within HMO.
Will the doctor that comes here, Dr.
Thomas,
will he ever be okay by,
probably not.
no?
Generally speaking with
Okay.
HMOs, and typically they're preferred by some people because it's it's cost. For me it was when I went with Kaiser, it's so much cheaper. But they're very particular about who they go to because they create contracts with certain places and guarantees, and I'm sure there's negotiated rates and whatnot with them. So most, and Dr. Thomas would be considered more of like a concierge style of service. He's not going to probably, he wouldn't contract with an HMO on something like that. Just so everybody in this room knows, if it pertains to you, Aspen Healthcare, who runs the skilled nursing here on property, is working with Kaiser to become a Kaiser approved facility.
The other one too, Desert Oasis?
Desert Oasis is generally very hard to play with.
Okay.
They pick one facility and then they do it. So that's just, and I always tell everybody when you're looking at insurances, keep those things in mind. I wouldn't let it be the only driver of making the decision you make, but utilizing that. And if you're ever having a question about, hey, this is my insurance, does it work in skilled nursing, they can always answer that question. And I've been the go-between on many of people for that. I'm gonna get Beverly back here and then I'll get Beverly in there. Beverly A and Beverly, so Beverly A and Beverly F.
Is Dr. Thomas, is he in Eisenhower now? I know he was.
He was trying, they're trying.
They're still
Eisenhower is typically,
Yeah.
so he's trying. That was the last update I had. As soon as I know something different, I will let everybody know in the weekly letter.
Regarding Dr. Thomas also, I think that it might be helpful to know that if you want him, it's my understanding, that if you want him as your secondary doctor, you can't have him on the spot. You need to have signed up ahead of time, filled out.
So that would be like I'll pick on myself an example. Say I have my doctor who I like, but I have an acute situation right now. Say I feel like I have a UTI. I don't just get to call Dr. Thomas and say, I want you as my secondary, come here right now. It does not work that way. But if you have already signed up with his service,
so that he has already given you an assessment.
he can't just medically treat somebody who is on the other line. I mean, there's certain, I I understand, I wish we could just clap our hands and a doctor would appear and we would just move on about our business. So if you're thinking about, that's why I encouraged everybody during that, when we got introduced to senior docs and the option that they were. If you're happy with your primary care physician, I wouldn't switch it. That not at all what anybody would want somebody to do. But if you want him as a backup plan, if you will, it's good to get signed up and then be established as it. So when you find yourself in a situation where maybe your doctor's on vacation and you just have a minor, more acute need, he can step in and fill in that gap. You have to that's kind of like a little bit premeditated for you. Thank you for bringing that up, Beverly. Well, all right. Well, thank you, everybody, to come hang out.
I need to say something. It has nothing to do with the doctor. And I'm going to say
I don't think it has to do with anybody in this room because they don't have dogs.
I know, but,
Because I already know what you're going to say.
well, you don't.
Okay.
You really don't. I took my animal this morning around the building, so there's dog poop lying around on the grass again. Doesn't matter, there's a bucket and bags. Molly said to me, you need to go to the dog park. So I went today to the dog park, which is very tiny if anybody saw it. There were 4 poops lying around there. So I would like you,
To kick all the dogs out?
no, but make some kind of, I don't know what or how, but this is a very small dog park. I thought I can let Goldie loose. But obviously there's poop. I would step in it. It
So
made
what
me so angry this morning.
If anybody reads my weekly letter or listens
I
to the
do,
sound of
and
my
I print it out.
Okay, let me finish.
It's just disgusting. It was
That's another issue.
Huh? It
That's
is,
another issue, right?
but
My
it's
dog
so
hasn't been in
important.
there for 2 days. I
You
just
have
want
the
you to
dog.
know.
I know that. And you go with your carriage, and the
So what
problem
I
is
would
when you
say-
drive on it. And it will be on your wheels.
So let me say this.
I was
We
so
are
angry.
dealing with it.
You are?
Short of me kicking everyone's animal out, which I don't think anybody wants, it is
No.
important to bring these things to my attention. Thank you for letting me know.
Oh, I just came
Maybe
back.
Vivian or I will move our desk to the dog park and we can find the culprit, or we'll start DNA testing every dog at the expense of their owner.
It's a shame. It is.
It's
It's a
shameful.
shame.
And I saw a guy pushing his mother on a wheelchair.
I'm